Biorante, Godzilla movie marathon, where we're stomping through Godzilla's filmography. I'm Derek, and I've seen all the Godzilla movies.
And I'm Doug, and I've seen 23 Godzilla movies and an increasing number of Ishirō Honda sci-fi flicks.
And we're talking about Ishirō Honda's first kaiju-adjacent-ish film since Rodan, and his very first space alien sci-fi film with The Mysterians, also known as Chikyu Boegun, which translates to Earth Defense Force. Released in Japan on December 28th, 1957. Directed by, of course, Ishirō Honda, with special effects by Eiji Tsuburaya. Written by Takeshi Kimura, which is based on a story conceived by Jojiro Kami and adapted by Shigeru Kiyama. Produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka and score by Akira Ifukube. And, of course, we'd like to take a quick moment to thank our spectacular patrons, Bo, Carl, Katie, Jason, Zoe, James, Keith, Cody, Toby, Hamish, Blake, Jace, Jojak, David, and Russ. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And of course, we do have a guest today to talk about this fun space alien invasion movie. We have our guest who runs the Biorante subtitle database for Toho Tokusatsu films, Josh. How's it going, Josh?
Hello. I'm good, thanks. Thank you for having me. How are you guys?
Good. Excited to talk about this one.
and
very curious about your thoughts, because you specifically asked to come on for this particular episode, which I'm going to have many questions about. But first off, what's your experience just generally with the Godzilla and like Toho Kaiju franchise?
Basically, I got into Godzilla through a friend in school, and they were into the 98 movie. Mm-hmm. And okay, I was like, oh, why am I into that? Why do I feel like having an interest in this? So I kind of like searched it up online, and I stumbled on, of course, the Japanese franchise instead. And so I was like, oh, there's like 28 movies. I've never heard of this before. From then on, I started to collect the films and watching them, getting into it more. And the problem was, I think back then, only a few of the films were released in the UK on DVD. And this was way past the point of VHS. So we were well into the DVD era. And I had to import most of the films from the United States, Hong Kong, Australia, because I think it was the original King Kong vs. Godzilla, the Universal cut. The Mysterians. That was it.
Oh, wow.
That was literally the only films released on DVD in the UK.
That's so wild. What a weird collection of them, too. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So how did you, what does it take then to like actually finally watch everything then?
Yeah, what did that look like?
It was just a case of, I think, begging my parents, oh, can you get this, order this for me on like eBay or whatnot. And then slowly building the collection up. And this took over like a year or so to finally get all the DVDs.
Yeah.
And then I think I was quite far into it for a bit. And then I think 2014, when the Monsterverse came about, I was like, okay, I kind of want to get involved in the fandom more, because this is kind of proper like reigniting this kind of love for the series. And so that's when I started to blog on Tumblr, and this is when Biorante started to come about. And this is like 4 or 5 years later, I started to realize, and being in amongst all these circles, that a lot of these releases did not have like proper subtitles, especially towards the Heisei era and I think the Millennium era as well. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, let me try and find out where I can find all these accurate subtitles from. And it's taking up from, I think, 2019 up until now in order to amass this collection of like different subtitles and try and find which one's the most accurate. And I think a lot of the Sony subtitles were kind of a mixed bag. There are some releases that were they used subtitles taken from online, like
really. That's
yeah.
absurd. It feels like it's like illegal. Like
so there was a I don't know if you guys remember, there's a website called Tokyo Monsters.
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they uploaded subtitles, and they were a bit of a mixed bag because a lot of them were dub titles, and obviously taken for the dub and then pasted onto the Japanese versions, and then some of them were accurate, and then some of them were like a mixed bag, and then a lot of these distributors, so like I think the people that were releasing Godzilla in Australia, they're taking those subtitles and put it onto their releases. And I've already like found this out recently. I was like trying to match going through these all, and I'm like, these are exactly the same. All they've done is changed it from American English to Australian English. That's all they've done.
Fascinating. Yeah.
I feel like weird little things like that have happened maybe on the Super Sentai side of things occasionally. And it's always such a weird thing to come across. Like, there's something weirdly encouraging about it because it's sort of like, okay, there is this sort of like community of people who have kind of already been doing the work, but much bigger is the weird part of like, how did you just take this?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, and it's like I think it's kind of an interesting journey we've been on with the podcast too, because I don't think either Doug or I are like super super hyper aware of sub-dub type conversations and things like that, right? Like some people are very, very interested in like what is the actual proper translation, what's the differences, and I'm like, there's some Godzilla movies that I've only ever seen dubbed, and watching for the podcast is the first time that I'm like making it a point to watch them in Japanese out of curiosity. And then we'll get like listeners email in and just be like, by the way, the version you watch, like the reason that line doesn't make sense is because it was translated badly because, X set does it badly or whatever. It's like, it's such a fascinating world. And like, I think that probably is the same way for just any foreign imports and things like that, just in general, because translation is just a complicated beast, but it is just once you like crack open like that can of worms, it is so funny. Like, I don't like, I need to picture reality because I'm like, well, what version have I watched? Like, is my entire perception of this movie based on like a bad translation of it? Like, how do you judge that? It's so fascinating.
It scrambles my brain. It really does.
But it's really funny because obviously we had the Godzilla versus Biorante release on from Criterion. And it turned out they had used a subtitle script that borrows a lot of lines from the English dub, but they didn't bother to include the English dub on the disc for some reason.
That is absurd. That is very stupid.
It's weird.
And that's the Criterion release. That's wild. That's so wild. It is strange I guess it's not strange. It is interesting to think about the fact that like the franchise is just so big and has been going for so long and like has so many entries and so many eras that like there can't really be like a definitive like full collection without kind of starting all over from the beginning to have like one consistent sort of definitive collection. But because it's, you can't really do that without such a massive undertaking. I appreciate people like you who do this stuff and whose brains aren't scrambled by thinking about these things.
Oh man. Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff. This movie, again, you specifically asked for this one, and so I'm very, very curious. What is your history? I know you said Mysterians is one of the earlier ones you had access to, so I'm assuming that's part of it, but what's your sort of connection with Mysterians specifically?
I think it's because it was like the first sort of titles where it had some sort of like alien invasion going on. And I think that's like formed the basis of like so many like Toho titles afterwards. Yeah. And definitely as well because it was like one of the first Toho titles I saw, given that is the first ones one of the first I had access to. I think it's a very colorful movie as well.
Oh yeah.
Especially with like the sets as well and the costumes and the way, obviously with the way the aliens are presented, different colors of like the. I love it.
Yeah. No, I think that totally makes sense. And I think it's cool that you had the experience. I think of watching it, having access to it early because earlier than a lot of other ones, because I feel like most people's experience in the modern day now from my, from my understanding, my experience is that they probably have watched this movie long after they've seen things like Astro Monster and stuff like that. That's my experience too. This is my first time watching this one. This is one of the handful of movies that we're doing this podcast that I also haven't seen. So this is my first time watching it. And I do think it is really fun and fascinating going back to this movie and being like, oh, this is kind of where all of it comes from. Like all the stuff that we start seeing in all the Toho kaiju movies that are science fiction based and alien based, like it starts here in this movie and you kind of see them inventing it. So it's really fascinating. Doug, also your first time watching this movie. And I how much did you know about this one beforehand going into it?
All I knew was that it was like a space alien sci-fi thing, and for some reason, I wouldn't be surprised if it came up in a class or something like that. I've been aware of this movie for a long time, and just never got around to watching it. It's been like on my list, like way in the back of my head, as just like, if you're gonna check out some older sci-fi movies, this is on the list, and I just never did. And so now it's interesting knowing that I could have so many times watched this movie before this podcast and had sort of like the quote proper timeline experience, and just didn't, which I think is good for this podcast. But I've been aware of it for a long time. I didn't know any details other than, it was a sort of alien sci-fi thing. And it's a lot of fun. I do think you kind of need to know the context once you've started watching a bunch of stuff after this, because I think it would be really easy to watch this movie kind of in a vacuum, or like in a vacuum for this era of movies, and sort of write it off as like, that's like a cute old sci-fi thing, but it's really not like rising to the occasion of what I've seen so far. But I don't think what we've seen to this point would quite exist without this movie. So I feel like that context is so important in figuring out like what to appreciate about this movie.
Yeah, for sure. It feels very akin to like Forbidden Planet or something, like the equivalent to that in like Hollywood, where it's like, I think if you were to go back and watch that now for the first time, it's sort of like, oh, this is kind of quaint, but it's like, no, I don't think you understand how innovative something like that is. And the reason that it feels quaint is because everything after it is like heavily influenced by it, This is just sort of like the sort of proto example of it. It's fascinating. Let's get into some of the production of it a little bit. I mean, obviously it was inspired by like big budget sci-fi films that both Japan and the United States have been doing for a while. Like War of the Worlds was from in 1953, right? Like stuff like that is like really popular. So Toho's like, let's do a science fiction epic of our own, right? We haven't really done that. Tanaka recruits Jojiro Kame, who's an aeronautical engineer and military test pilot who became a sci-fi writer. And a lot of the stuff that he would write was good at sort of, dreaming up like spacecrafts and like future weapons and like speculative technology and stuff that would be perfect for a sci-fi epic, right? And I think that Tanaka had read one of his novels and was like, hey, come up with a story for a movie that then we can do, right? So comes up with the story. Shigeru Koyama, who wrote the story and novelization of the original Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again, then adapts that story, and then Takeshi Kimura writes the script. So people that we all end up being familiar with. I think Kimura just on Rodan, right? So like all these familiar people that we know are working on this and sort of crafting this. I think one of the things that's sort of interesting, a lot of the information that I have on this movie comes from Ishiro Honda's biography, which provides some really great context for what's happening in Japan at the time. And I think sort of what the perception of just like kind of geopolitical ideas are. I think for one of the things that I think influences this movie is that a lot of Western sci-fi and like alien invasion films are like very like anti-communist, very pro-American exceptionalism, very much like here's our nation who's going to rise to the occasion, and our military expertise and scientific expertise alone are going to like take out the bad guys, right? And I think the difference here is that, especially with Honda being involved, is that, a lot of the stuff we've talked about with Honda is that he's not a big fan of like war, and it's very interesting, famously so, and like likes people coming together and you know, showing sort of a wider kind of optimistic, idealized kind of views of people coming together, right? So like
unity,
right? Like an international cooperation. And so I think that that's where a big kernel of this movie like sets it apart from, I think, what was happening in like Hollywood sci-fi especially. And I think another bit of context, I think, is like, I don't know that Honda has spoken to this specifically, but I think it makes sense when you think about it. Japan had just joined the United Nations in 1956. So like, like just very shortly before this movie comes out. And that's something that I think a lot of Japanese leaders have been pushing for a while. And I think what they were pledging to when they were joining the UN was like, they wanted to be a force for world peace. They wanted to, you know, try to influence the US and the USSR to stop nuclear testing, which, you know, every Toho movie we've watched, I feel like really speaks to that. So
makes sense.
Makes sense. So I think that really makes its way into the movie, right? Like so much of this movie is sort of like, hey, we Japan are almost these like mediators in the world trying to like bring together, you know, these other world powers and to solve this problem without the use of nuclear weapons and try to find something more creative and like use the power of science and things like that to like find a peaceful way to solve the problem, you know? So I think, I think that's sort of a lot of the context for why this movie ends up being the way that it is. But I mean, that's I think that's sort of Honda's ideas for it. Filming and effects wise, it's got a huge budget, I think, comparatively, or at least they say that. Honda said that it like surpassed both Godzilla and Rodan, is several times larger in scale than the two of them. I think that part of that, I think there's a couple of aspects to it. For one, there's simply just like a lot of people on screen in this movie. Like for the military that you see in this movie, there's like at certain points, there's like 600 soldiers.
Oh my
like
gosh.
real life Japan Self-Defense Forces soldiers that they used.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And like, so yeah,
that is a lot.
That's a lot. I mean, I can't even comprehend. That's so many. And, you know, and like following movies would just use extras and stuff. But this movie, it's sort of like we're using real soldiers. We're putting them all on screen. Like they're shooting actual like when they're shooting flamethrowers, that's not a prop. There's actual soldiers shooting actual flamethrowers.
So wild.
Yeah. So they were putting a lot of stock in this movie. I think also some of the effects are similar as well. Like this is where they really start utilizing plastic in making their effects. Apparently that was like a thing.
Oh.
Yeah. I never occurred to me, but like this is all again coming from Honda's biography, is like they had like Toho had like in-house technical research departments that are looking at emerging technologies. And at the time, like, it's not like plastic was an emerging technology, but seeing what you can use plastic for was I think definitely a thing. You know, because if you think about like what household appliances and things like that at the time, where everything is like wood and metal and glass, you know?
Well, yeah. And so much of these movies, like you can still feel sort of the residue sounds like such a negative word, but like the residue of them being sort of like theatrical, like sort of like the like coming from theater. And I, you know, when you think of like building a set on a stage, like molding plastic isn't always the first thing I think of. I think of things you build with more often, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they end up mostly using plastic, especially for like the dome alien base. Because I think their worry for that was that like they could do glass, but it would be like hard to shape it, and then also like that's dangerous if you're shooting stuff.
Yeah, it could shatter.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, that'll be so dangerous to have on set. And so with plastic, they can really do whatever they want with it. So that's a big innovation that they make in this movie. I think that ends up, you know, having a ripple effect for later movies, is how they can implement plastic in things. A lot of the future tech and warship and spaceship designs were based on ideas from Shigeru Komatsuzaki, who was a designer that Tanaka hired for his interest in aeronautics, apparently. And then, so it is an actual like aeronautics kind of expert that's there, who then designs a lot of these things. And I think that's another thing that ends up having an influence on later movies, is that so many things that we see in later Toho movies kind of are riffing on these designs that originally come from Komatsuzaki, which is just sort of interesting to basically like kind of invent the look of what Toho science fiction would be going forward, you know?
Well, and like shaping the in-universe world, you know what I mean? Like the way that their technology looks like starts to veer from reality at this point, I feel like, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Another innovation, this is the first Honda Tsuburaya collab to be shot in anamorphic Toho scope, which, if you don't know what that is, that's basically Toho's analog to CinemaScope. If you don't know what that is, that's basically just like the lenses and tech that made films widescreen back in the day. Like when they first invented like movies can be long, like that's what it was. So this is the first time. So I think that also I think influences, like this is kind of them learning how to shoot science fiction and big monsters in sort of widescreen and like, you know, heavy color and things like that, which definitely affects all the movies that we see after this, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And the only other just like last production things that I have is just like it was a box office hit. You know, it did great. I think it was the 10th highest grossing domestic film of the year. It was Toho's second biggest release of the year, so it's a big hit. I think it's one reason why it's like stayed in pop culture. I haven't seen this, but it does have apparently like kind of a loose sequel in Battle in Outer Space in 59, which I know of, but I haven't seen it. Have you seen that, Josh?
I have seen it a few years back, and I think they had a few returning characters, but they swapped up the cast. So I completely forgot that they're the people from the Mysterians, but obviously they've just been recasted. So.
Well, it's like a dangerous thing to keep characters and change cast in this universe where you see the same cast playing a billion different characters across movies. Really, you know, like.
I don't think we have a reason to watch that on the main podcast. Like, I guess we could justifiably do it just because it's a sequel to this one, kind of. But I don't think there isn't a reason. So maybe we'll do that on Patreon or something at some point. But I know of it, but I haven't seen it. I've heard that it's fun. But you know, we'll see. But
yeah,
Doug, did you expect there to be any sort of giant monster in this movie at all?
No, I didn't. Although I guess I just kind of should expect something like that around this time, because like most of the movies I watch in this realm that we're not going to cover on the podcast still end up having like some sort of monster or some sort of large creature. So I should just expect it. Although this one's pretty different because it's technically a robot, right?
Yeah. So I think it maybe is one of the first instances of like a robot that looks kind of like an animal but is a robot. Do you know what I mean? Like the sort of robeast design. Like, I don't know. I don't think that it ever happened before. Like, cause that's a common thing now, especially in like a lot of Japanese action stuff. But the idea of like a giant robot that looks like an animal, like, I know that's like basic.
It's a very beefy design.
Yeah. But I think that's like the first time that's ever happened, which is really cool.
That's wild to think about, but I guess it makes sense, you know?
Like maybe not. Maybe books had done something like that, but at least in a movie, I can't think of a movie before this that would have done that.
Well, and that makes a difference because, like, unless the book literally says, like, it is the literal shape of a dog, you could just kind of chalk anything up to, like, characteristics, you know? So to actually, like, see the representation of it on screen, like, there's no ambiguity. That is supposed to look kind of like an animal.
Yeah. So this is Mogera for the listeners who don't know. But what do you think of this guy?
I think he's kind of cool. It's interesting because
that's a fun reaction.
Sorry, because it's like I'm thinking of him in the context of the movie. Like I was expecting to see so much more of him given when he shows up, and you don't see as much of him as I would have expected, and so he's not really like as big a part of the movie as I would have thought he was going to be when he showed up. So that's where that reaction comes from, because I'm sort of like, what do I think of this guy? Because I wasn't thinking about him all that much. But I think the design is kind of cool. It does feel is it supposed to be like a specific kind of animal? Is it like a mole? Because it has sort of like a pointy drill nose.
I feel like it's a mole.
Yeah, so here's a funny thing about him. They originally were envisioning Mogera to be like a biological kaiju monster. And the only reason that it became a robot is just because they'd been doing kaiju films already and they wanted to kind of differentiate it. So they kind of riffed on it, turned it into a robot. But I'll send you the concept art they had for him.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was going to be kind of like a reptilian mole kind of thing.
It looks like Baragon.
Yes, and I think that like I feel like it's like since they couldn't use this as the concept, they basically use elements of him for Baragon afterwards. I think that makes sense.
I just noticed the man in there because it's like a costume design picture. And like, I know, because one of my favorites is Anguirus, and it's the same, but it's so funny to see it. This man on all fours inside this mall,
I just noticed
right?
that as well.
Yeah, there's something kind of kinky about it, you know?
Yeah, like being able to, it feels like something you're not supposed to see. So seeing it feels like forbidden, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting to see that it started off more biological, and that it started off on all fours. I think one of the things that is tough for me to sort of decide about with Mogera is I think the fact that it's sort of a robot makes it like hard. I don't know that they figured out how to make a robot costume look robot-y yet, so it's like the costume is moving the same way a Godzilla costume would move, and so the pieces don't feel like super duper robot-y, but you can tell that they're supposed to look like metal. I think part of it is like, I don't know why they decided to do this like up and down tread thing on the front. I feel like that made it really weird to move. But I can kind of imagine a world where it's supposed to be inspired maybe by like tank treads or something. I don't know. Josh, what do you think of this design?
Yeah, I feel like it's like it feels like it's like a moving tank, and it kind of reminds me of I can't remember I don't know if it's the right name, Dino Tank or something from Ultraman.
The Dino Tank from Ultraman. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like if you look up Dino Tank, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yep. I've seen Dino Tank 100%.
I love Dino Tank.
Yep.
I love Dino Tank so much.
Yeah, it feels like it feels sort of akin to that, but wasn't willing to necessarily go full tank.
Yeah. It is an odd design. I wonder if part of it like is coming from the like, because if you see the concept art, like he has all the ridges when he's like the quadrupedal creature, he has like all the ridges and everything, and so maybe it was like they were almost sticking too close to the original design, and we're sort of like, well, like I can see those being ridges of some sort of reptilian creature, and then they're like, oh, a 1-to-1 that to like tire treads. But not really thinking that, like, what if you're not like rolling on the treads, then it doesn't really read like what it is, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
They fold over like fabric material. It doesn't quite read treads anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I like him a lot because it is such an odd design, and I think the face, like the body, the treads of the body are weird, but the face, I love the face because it's almost like it's a mole thing, but it's also kind of bug like with the antenna and the beady eyes too.
Yeah.
I feel as though this could be like a starting point for Gigan as well.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. It's an interesting design. And it's like one that, you know, I hadn't seen this movie, but I'm like familiar with the design just from the world of kaiju and stuff. So it's fun to have seen it in motion. It is very funny that he just like pops up at the beginning of the movie and then
pops up and just gets taken out like 5 minutes later.
Bye.
See ya.
I guess you're there.
just comes out chasing, who is it? Kenji Sahara down the mountainside, and then
You know,
and take it out.
It's interesting though because the guy that wrote this, you said wrote Rodan too, right? And that was the last thing he wrote right before this?
Yeah, he did. He wrote Rodan, and this is the first like Toho movie that he writes after Rodan.
Well, and the reason I bring that up is because Rodan also has kind of an odd structure where you think it's kind of one thing and then it kind of turns into something else. Because with Rodan, it was sort of like, oh, this is like a weird sort of like mining horror movie, and it turns out to be a kaiju film. And this one is sort of like, oh, it's like a kaiju film, and it turns out to be an alien invasion movie. And so it makes me curious about like the next few things that he writes to see if this is sort of like his sort of signature thing, you know?
That's an interesting point, though, because then that makes me kind of rethink Mogera's design a little bit. Especially, well, the original Inception, because if originally they want it, you know, it's scripted to be a live creature, then it does make sense for like a bait and switch thing where it's like, just a big kaiju comes out and it's like, oh, you think this is just going to be a movie about a kaiju, and then it's actually a surprise when it's like, no, that was just sort of like basically a scouting agent for these aliens, essentially, and now it's an alien movie. You know, like I think that's actually a really neat. Like I wasn't thinking about it because I knew Mogera was in the movie, and I knew he was a robot. So like I wasn't, you know, I was waiting for the Mysterians to show up and just assume that he was controlled by the Mysterians.
Yeah.
But if you think about going into it not knowing that and like what audiences at the time would have known, like that is kind of an interesting twist that it's like, oh, I thought it was one kind of movie and actually it isn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's sort of interesting. But yeah, I mean, some things about the suit. It was vinyl material that was painted over to look metallic. The head, upper body, and lower body were all completely separate pieces that had to be put on individually, which I think makes sense when you look at it. It's very segmented. But I think because of that, that meant that any time that there are scenes of like the legs stomping on things or kicking things, they would only need to wear like the lower part of the suit. So it would just be like dudes walking around with just the big old legs, essentially.
I love when they wear partial costumes. I love seeing pictures of just like a man in the top half or a man in the bottom half. It's so funny.
Yeah. They also made a little half-size puppet as well with a rotating drill nose and rotating arms.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think that was specifically
so cool.
for the second one that you see for like 3 seconds at the end of the movie, like to show it burrowing underground. It was made for that. So it's like a little toy made for that.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even mention his like rotating antenna too. When you first see him, like he's got his antenna rotate, which is fun. They're like spinning.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun moving parts. Like I can kind of see how they are inspired by a lot of like the Western robots that have like, like the Forbidden Planet robot and like Robbie the robot and like the robot from Lost in Space, or like they'll have like things inside of their heads and stuff like that that are moving around. Like this, Mogera doesn't exactly do that, but like the idea of like having little individual parts that spin around and stuff like that, it feels very, very akin. And I feel like later movies probably utilize that better once they're able to kind of better build these types of things, more complex things like this. And this is also one of the few times where like we know exactly what happened to the suit afterwards because it got caught on fire.
Oh, what?
It was in storage at Toho for many years. It lasted until 1974. And then
this is
Prophecies of Nostradamus was a movie that was being filmed there, and there was a pyrotechnic accident that caught it on fire.
Oh
and
my
the suit burned down during that fire. Yeah.
Wow. Man, not even like an on-set story. What a bummer.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's good because it means everyone was safe, but still.
We lost Megara.
I know. It was a casualty. Oh boy. Anything more to say about this guy before we move on to character stuff?
I don't think so.
Oh boy. What a cast of this movie. Truly, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we genuinely have like the leads of both Godzilla and Rodan in this movie, plus a few others thrown in, which is, I mean, it's not surprising, but it is funny. Kenji Sahara, is the lead. He had just owned Rodan right before this, so he's still a little baby in this movie, which is really fun. And along with Yumi Shirakawa, who's the female lead in Rodan, joins him, and then we also have like a male lead and female lead of Godzilla because we have Momoko Kochi, who's Emiko in the original Godzilla, which is, I think for us, Doug, I think this is the first time we've seen her in anything else, right? Like, she hasn't showed up in anything since the first Godzilla.
I don't think she has.
Yeah. And of course, they bring her back again to be like doomed to be engaged to Akihiro Harada, who has to sacrifice himself. Like, the girl cannot escape this. Like...
She can't rest.
She can't rest.
I know. She needs a movie that's like just hers. One that he's not even in, If he's around, they're gonna hitch her to him.
And then he's gonna die.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, those are our kind of like core 4 young hot people leads. Obviously, half of those people have more to do than the other half of those 4, for various reasons. I think. I don't know. What do y'all think about the sort of main young hot people cast of the movie here?
I think it's a good selection. I mean, I think watching this back to back, I think, especially when I was watching the other Godzillas as well, like with the Showa series, I found it a bit confusing when obviously an actor fresh out of one movie would appear in the sequel and there's something different character, and I'm like, well, they just and obviously Kenji Sahara fresh from Rodan and being in this word, and it's like, is he the same character? Is he in a different
because they're basically like playing the same people. Like
Same role, just different name.
Yeah, and it's not like costuming is drastically different between movies either.
Right.
Everybody brought their white suits from the last one, you know?
Especially Takashi Shimura as well.
Yeah. Again, also the man can't not play like a sad scientist who loses people every time.
Yeah.
Like I love to see him. He's great in everything, but it is very funny that how often they use him in the same role with this.
I mean, in a way, you know, if this is their big sci-fi movie with a big budget and they're trying to do like a sort of all out, let's compete with Hollywood, like this is kind of an all-star cast doing their all-star thing, you know, like, so it's like, okay, who of our leading men, who can we grab to be our leading man? Of our, you know, sort of leading women, who can of our leading scientists, and they kind of just grabbed all of their best players. So it makes sense in that regard. But yeah, they're not necessarily doing anything deeply different than what you would kind of expect them to be cast for. Sure. I think for that exact reason.
It's like very much a typecasting.
Yeah. Which like, I do agree with you. It's almost like typecasting isn't a bad thing in a movie like this if there's sort of a lot, if there's kind of like a lot at stake because they're trying to make it a big movie and this is their big swing. Like, why not kind of play it safe and be like, we know those people can do it and people like them, so just bring them in and have them do their thing that we know that they're good at, you know?
Yeah.
Why risk it?
Yeah, and I, you know, especially watching these old ones, I constantly come back to the sort of theater comparison, and it's like you have people who are good at certain things on stage and they get cast in those roles, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I do have interesting to say about is that Yoshio Shuchiya, because, you know, obviously he becomes, you know, one of the main recurring guys with Godzilla movies and a lot of Toho movies. This is the first time I believe that he works with Honda on a movie. Like he'd been in a minor role on Godzilla Raids Again, so he's done a Godzilla thing, but like obviously Honda didn't direct that, and that was a minor role. So this is his first time being in a major role with Honda. What's interesting though is that like he had already done Seven Samurai, so like he is a known actor who's proved himself. It's not like he's a nobody, but he's like, I really like space stuff. I like sci-fi. I want to play a spaceman. And this movie has lots of spacemen, so let me play a spaceman. And so he is like wanting to do that. Toho was like, but why would we cast like a guy who's like, people know his face from being in a big movie? Why would we put him in a bunch of like in a big old helmet and sunglasses and never actually show his face, have his voice kind of filtered and stuff? Like, why would we waste like a major actor on that role? It doesn't make any sense. And Sushi is like, but I want to play a spaceman. Like,
because these actors, right? These actors like crave these like weirder roles, you know? I mean, Kenji Sahara did it too, where he's like, I just want to be a weird little freak. Let me be a weird little freak. And they're like, fine, for this one movie.
Maybe the main twink of the show.
Right. Exactly. So it makes sense to me. I love that. I love that about these actors, that they're like, I just want to be a weird guy. Let me just be a weird guy. Come on.
There's a quote from him where he said, you know, when Toho was like pushing back, he said, I disagreed, and I told them that being an actor isn't all about showing our faces. And then, which is like, yeah, man. And then that in turn like impressed Honda, which is how they kind of formed kind of solidified their relationship, which is why they end up working together frequently after this, is because I think Honda appreciated like, this guy wanted to be a spaceman so bad, and he fought tooth and nail for it. Like, respect, dude.
Yeah,
so
that rules.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, like, I do think, you know, it's a tough role to be like in all of that, all of, you know, all that big costume, and I do.
And to be convincing as well.
Right. Because it's like, you could phone it in. You could easily phone that role in. And I do think it makes a difference if you phone it in, though. I do think you have to have some level of charisma and control over your body to be able to I don't know, make that still a compelling performance, even under like layers upon layers of like plastic and metal on your head, you know? Yeah.
And at that point, why wouldn't you want the guy who deeply wants to do it, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We'll obviously talk more about the Mysterian of it all in a second. But just to get through some more of these people, there's some interesting white guys in this movie. It's always fun to call out the very obvious white people that randomly show up and then have lines.
One of the few contexts where like some interesting white guys actually make sense.
Yeah, right. But two of like the two that are the most prominent ones are like actually it's interesting that they're here. So the guy who the British one, who I think is like of the two, gives like a good performance considering he's literally not an actor. George Furness, he plays that scientist. He's a British lawyer. He actually had represented what was the Empire of Japan's defendants in the Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal.
Whoa.
So
whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. So an interestingly complex history with
Holy
this man.
smokes.
But after the war crimes tribunals were done, he was like, I'm in Japan. Put me in your movies. So he would just be tapped for things like this. He was, among kind of like what was then a little bit of like a kind of a clique, I think, in Tokyo of these sort of, businessmen and lawyers and things like that who would like come over for work, who would then moonlight as actors because it would be an easy paycheck because there weren't a lot of like Western men over there at the time that could be easily tapped and pulled in for these things. So he's one of those guys. Harold Conway is another one. He's the guy who I think is has a less good performance, I would say. Tries his damnedest to speak Japanese, but I'm like, I don't even speak Japanese, and I can kind of tell you're not speaking it very well, buddy. He was just a businessman. He was another businessman, I think, who was just kind of part of that little circle of dudes who would just moonlight as actors at the time.
That's so funny.
Just funny. Yeah. Yeah. And this is also like connected to them. There's the man who is their interpreter in the movie. Obviously like not a big role, but he's an interesting guy. Heiichiro Okawa. So he's like acted in a ton of movies, Japanese, American, and British movies. Like he was in Howard Hawks' The Dawn Patrol. He was in David Lean's Bridge on the River Kwai. And he attended Paramount Studios acting school. And would then also be the translator. Even like he's literally an on-screen translator, but behind the scenes, frequently a translator for many of Honda's films at the time for any of the like American and English actors that would show up.
So he's the one who had to deal with like our divas later down the road.
Exactly.
Oh,
Right.
Okay. I respect this man more than anyone else.
Yeah, he's the one who dealt with oh my god, I already forgot what the fuck was his name from King Kong?
And,
Rhodes Reason. How could I forget
Nick
Adams?
Yeah.
Man, yeah. Those aren't like important characters, but it's always just fun to point out people like that in this movie.
Yeah, especially because I'm always like convinced. I always convince myself that like one of these people is actually going to just be like a Japanese person who happens to be white in Japan, and they never are. They're always like these random dudes they like plucked from somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, and this is the kind of movie where like if you want to like dig in deep, like every like minor role and general or captain or whatever is someone you've seen in another movie. Like there's like the younger like military captain who's in it, Captain Seki. Like that's Asaya Ito, who was Malmus, the assassin in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster.
Yeah.
Everyone, like almost everyone in this movie, you've seen in some minor role.
You see somewhere else.
Something else.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's just this cast. Any other just like people that you want to talk about before we get into like plot stuff in the movie?
I have to mention that Yoshifumi Tajima is nowhere to be found in this one. He had a day off.
That's surprising. That is surprising. Yeah. Very funny. Very funny. Yeah. Well, cool. We can go anywhere we want. There's still plenty to talk about. We haven't mentioned really the plot of this movie, honestly, which is aliens come to invade and they pretend that they're coming under like, a message of peace, right? And then it turns out that no, actually they're evil and they want to take over. Like whatever, we've seen that movie since then. Obviously, this is sort of an early iteration of that. I do think that there is something interesting about one of the things that they ask for at the beginning of the movie. I think famously is, about 3 miles of land, and then also your women.
Right.
They come and what your women.
Right. And at first they're sort of like, we'll take 5. And then later you see it's like this whole room full of women.
The whole harem.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But they just pluck them up into that tiny little spaceship.
Yes.
It's like, when you're watching it, it's so tiny. It's like
yeah.
how?
Okay, yes. I'm so glad you mentioned that. One of the things that absolutely will be most memorable, but would have scared the crap out of me as a kid if I had watched this as a kid, was the effect of them abducting the women into their little saucers. Because it's this movie isn't really like a horror movie, but if it wanted to be, it would build off of that vibe right there. Because having the people like walk in and see that out the window is like so creepy. It's interesting to me that this doesn't end up sort of like a horror movie really at all. Maybe because it is such an earlier sort of alien movie, it ends up being like much more straightforward. Josh, I'm always curious about this. You watched this one. This was one of the first ones you watched, and you watched it pretty young, right? So like, what? I don't know how much you've watched it between when you first watched it and now, if this is like a regular watch for you or not. But do you remember much of your impressions of it when you were a kid? Were there things that like watching it as an adult you were like, oh my god, that's what was going on? Was there much of a difference, or do you recall?
When I first watched it, I was like, oh, this is like another Toho movie that I could buy. So when I was watching it, I was like, oh, there's not much of a monster. Obviously with Megura shows up 5 minutes and he's gone. And now looking back, when I'm like watching it now, and like looking back to how I watched it when I was a kid, I was like, I'm much more appreciative of it now. There's much more to the story than just Megura, and I start to notice, the set designs. I start to notice, the music. I think, is it Akira Ifukube?
It is.
Yep. As well. Yeah,
yep.
Love it. Yeah, I think I was like, oh, this is actually a really solid effort compared to how I viewed it as like, oh, it's just, where's Megura?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like the perfect place to start, because that makes a lot of sense, right? Like as a kid, if you're watching movies for monsters and there's only like 20 minutes of the monster, exactly. Especially at the beginning, like you're not even building up to it, that would be kind of weird. But it is an interesting thing for them to do. I love the setting where this starts. Loves that it starts at this like festival, really beautiful, very cool set, and like incredible costuming. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah. Well, and the beginning of it is really it's kind of eerie because it's these like odd natural disasters that are sort of happening at first, like the trees burning at the roots. Like that freaked me out a little bit because it's like there's something, and they still don't exactly explain, I think, how that happened. It's just some alien space tech, I guess, but like stuff like that, I think it's like that. There's something else that I think happens too.
The landslide.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's just like I think that's a fun. It does feel akin to, I can't think of a specific example, but I feel like there are modern movies like that too, where like it begins with these sort of strange, things that seem like it possibly explainable, but like still weird natural disasters that then build up to like, oh, it was a monster, or oh, it's aliens like actually happening, Like I love that stuff.
Yeah. And also Atragon, where it's sort of like weird shit's just happening in rapid succession.
Right. Yeah, like Atragon is like this, like up to 11.
Right, this walked so Atragon could fly. But
exactly.
I like that too. The sort of like weird, mysterious things happening, and you don't really get an explanation. It is funny that the first sort of explanation is Megura just like walking out of a mountain. It's so funny.
Just like stumbles out, and all of a sudden just starts attacking Kenji Sahara and there's 3 policemen. And then I think one gets blown up with the car or something, and then one falls down into a ditch, and then Kenji Sahara has to rescue him.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember. There's also, oh no, I think it was with a scene later in the movie where there's also the is it like they get water from a dam or something to attack the village?
Oh, there's like I don't know exactly how it.
Like a tsunami.
They drown a village for sure.
Like that. Yeah. Was it like a lake or something?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember because I guess it was near where it was because it was near where their base was, right? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah, like they induced like a tidal wave.
Yeah. Yeah, that like flood with all the water that looked like it was chocolate pudding.
Yeah.
grossest looking water I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, obviously so many of these movies have lots of destruction, but typically, not that we haven't seen stuff like this, but typically we're seeing like buildings and structures and sort of inorganic things being destroyed. But occasionally we end up with movies like this one in Varian, where like an entire village, simply because it's smaller than a city, is just wiped out in its entirety. And that always feels so much worse, even though like tons of people could be in a skyscraper. Just the idea of the village being gone is so creepy.
Yeah,
I think they have to get a bit creative as well, because obviously it's a more rural setting compared to a city. So okay, what way can we, we can't do something with skyscrapers, so maybe let's induce a landslide. Let's do, I think with other movies as well, they could do like a volcanic eruption or something like that. Or
yeah, that is a good point, because I do think that does kind of set it apart from a lot of other, especially like American movies at the time, where it is just UFOs shooting a bunch of buildings. They could have done that, and I think that they would have done it well. I think it would have looked great, and later movies that we see have done that with Toho. But like this one, I do think it feels eerier because it's a little quieter. That it is like this alien like dome that's just sort of like hanging out in a rural area, and then all of their devastation is just to like small villages around it. Like it feels, I don't know, it feels smaller, but it also feels a little scarier because it's like so much emptier, I guess. I don't know. It's it's an interesting vibe for it.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that was specifically to say like, we're inspired by these sci-fi movies, but this is like a Japanese one, right? It opens with this festival. There's like very obviously a cultural festival. It has these villages that are going to look more Japanese because they are not modern cities that are meant to sort of be like these Western sort of inspired hubs. And so everything looks a lot more, this sounds like such a weird thing to say, but looks more Japanese in sort of like the setting and the buildings and all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if that were a conscious decision. But it's also just kind of cool. And I have to imagine, I don't know how much there is about like special effects wise doing these kinds of things, but like we've seen them collapse cities before, and we saw it sort of like the accident version where it all falls at the same time. I'm assuming this is more what they were trying to do, where it sort of like is like this ripple sort of thing. It looks very cool, but when you see it, it's sort of like, I guess they would only have one shot. When they're like drowning that village, like you don't get a second take, Yeah. And I feel like I've never felt that more than I have with this movie.
God, yeah, that's a good point, because they really do just like fully demolish these sets. Like 100, they're underwater, on fire, like sunk into the ground. That's a really good point.
Yeah, there's so much like just earth moving, you can't like have a mountain set on hand, like.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of these like shots as well get reused for later movies.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
It's like stock footage.
Yeah. It does make, it totally makes sense.
Especially like in the sense, I think, was it Godzilla versus Megalon? Like half the movie was just stock footage.
I haven't seen this. I look forward to seeing which stuff they choose.
Yeah.
Because this is a beautiful movie. Like there's a lot of stuff to pull.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of honestly too, like the thing about this movie that I found is like, I was almost expecting the plot to be a little more complex and deeper. And there's things to pull from it, but it's pretty straight. It's a very straightforward movie. Honestly, it really, a lot of this movie is kind of the spectacle of it.
Yes.
And I definitely can see how this was meant to be like, this is, your equivalent to like a modern blockbuster. That's like, you're coming to see it for the visual effects. And like, it feels very much that of like, look what we can do. Like, look how colorful this is. Look how cool this stuff looks. Look at all these little mechanisms that we've created. Look at all these weapons and these fight sequences. And that's kind of a big bulk of the movie, and that's not a knock against it. But I do think that you have to understand that that's kind of what you're coming for with it.
Yeah, I do have to remind myself that this movie is probably meant to specifically be a special effects showcase. Because my least favorite movies we've talked about tend to be the ones that have like really long extended sort of like military assaults and then like discussion about the military assaults. And this movie does have quite a bit of that.
It does.
But
A little bit.
if I remind myself how early in the timeline this was, and just some of the like what it takes to pull off what they're doing, I can certainly appreciate it more. I would love for there to be more going on with the human characters in this one, because I feel like if you're going to pull 5 scientists to be sort of like the representation of humanity to the Mysterians, there's like so much you can do with those 5 scientists. And I feel like at least 3 of them are just like never much of a factor. Or, you know, like Kenji Sahara's character ends up like in the base, and all the stuff they do with him in the base is really, really cool. I love that stuff. I love that he like grabs one of their guns and starts blasting them from the inside. Like, it's very, very cool. But it almost feels like he's, as much as he's like the action hero in those moments, he doesn't even feel like the protagonist as much anymore, which is really strange. So the human stuff I would have loved to see more of, especially because the cast that they have is really incredible. But I mean, most of it is to see what they can pull off as far as like aliens destroying this area.
Yeah. I think that one thing I give this movie a lot of credit for is I do think it does a nice job right from the get-go of establishing who the characters you're paying attention to are, like at that beginning festival. And so their sort of relationships, which is like a thing that like even some of Godzilla movies that I love, sometimes it's like it's unclear who my main characters are for a little while until you kind of figure it out. Like this one, it's sort of like, here's our core 4, you know, like this guy is engaged to this person, and this guy just broke off his engagement with this person, and these 2 are siblings. Like all those connections, it's like, cool, I get it. I get who everyone is. And so, and then that helps it make sense when later on, when it's like, well, of course, like out of the entire planet Earth, like of the 5 women, 2 of them are 2 of the main characters, but it's because the one guy we were introduced to at the beginning that was related with them has defected and is now working with the Mysterians. So of course he's going to have a personal connection to like these 2 women, is going to want them to join the Mysterians. Right. It's like, it actually like helps explain why our main characters would be involved in this plot at all, which I think is very, very cleverly done. And a lot of other Toho sci-fi movies, it's like all just coincidental for why people are involved.
Yeah, I went through that exact same thought process of like, okay, these 2 of all the women of Earth, these 2 friends, but then they cover that. They cover that base, which is really smart.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that honestly, I think that was surprising to me that Harada's character is like, once he's revealed to be working for the Mysterians, like I wasn't expecting that at all. Like I thought
it just connects the dots.
Yeah. I thought that was a really, really cool swerve and a really cool dynamic. I like how that story goes at the end. I do kind of wish more had been done with it somehow, or we saw more of his perspective throughout the movie, because I do feel like it's a really cool idea. And the scenes where that is played up of like the scientist who is viewing everything solely through science and who joins these aliens, you know, against everyone else's better judgment, because like, but their science is better. And, you know, it makes sense what they're saying about world peace and everything. Like that dynamic is really cool. But then I feel like he kind of disappears from the movie for like the whole middle section of it, once that's revealed, until the very end when he has this heroic sacrifice, you know? So I wish that they'd done a little more with it, because I love that idea.
I feel like as well, they don't exactly show his kind of change, where he defects to the Mysterians, but when he obviously changes his mind again, obviously, and then it doesn't show like in between that and obviously his appearance at the end, like, hey, I'm on your side again. Let me go sacrifice myself.
Yeah. There's like one scene where he's like, I give Harada a lot of credit, because like I can, even though they're all in these like, you know, absurd spaceman costumes, I can still tell when I'm looking at him just through his like a little bit of his face and his body language. And there's one scene where like you can tell that he's reacting and the wheels are turning just through body language when he's hearing the Mysterian's plans. And it's like, oh shit, this is bad. So like I give Harada a lot of credit for acting within that costume to like convey that. That's like, okay, I can tell that you're thinking you don't like this, but I wish I could have gotten a little bit more from that. A little bit more from that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Josh. Because like you need to not know what's going on at the beginning, so that him working for them is like a surprise and like hits. But then you need to build towards the other, like the turn back around. Yeah.
That said, him speaking through the TV, I love that.
Okay.
With the
Yes.
filter.
It's so good.
Yes, I love it. This is a perfect example of the kind of thing that's so easy to take for granted, but like would be so fantastical and sci-fi to be like, what do you mean you're talking in real time through the TV? Like, we're doing it right now, like 3 of us, you know? But like thinking about how weird and creepy and like eerie that would be for him to just be able to do that into your living room, you know, is such a fun thing to think about.
That's scary.
It is. And like, I know that we're like communicating through Zoom right now, but if my TV just turned on just now and had someone talking to me, it would be still creepy to this day.
It would still
you know
be
what
creepy.
I mean?
It would still be creepy because of like the violation into your home, but like you could probably work backwards as to how it might happen. At this point, there's like no explanation. Like, it's just like, I have no clue how this could possibly be working. And I love that kind of like old sci-fi stuff, because it's like so much of it influences like the technology we have now. And so then you kind of forget that it was like totally just like fantastical stuff to begin with.
Yeah.
A lot of their technology is really cool. Josh, I think you had mentioned like some of the how the technology looks in the sets and like their costuming and stuff. And I have to imagine like that's some of the stuff that hits really early, even as a kid when the monster is gone, is just like the colorful sets and costumes.
Well, I feel like as well, like the costumes of the Mysterians, it does sort of remind me as well with Super Sentai.
Oh yeah,
like Power Rangers.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what grabbed me as well when I first saw the movie.
Yeah, I will say I'm not going to be able to have it to show it off while we're recording this, but I'm doing the cover art for this episode, and I was wondering. I'm doing a Go Ranger riff for this.
Yes. Oh, it's so perfect. Yeah, it is very reminiscent of Super Sentai. I also love that the color scheme is like for the aliens is basically the color scheme for like Star Trek uniforms now.
It totally is.
You know what I mean? Like it's just there's 3 colors and they're the same ones. Like
yeah. And it's even kind of like not original series Star Trek, but like next gen era where like the red is the sort of captain, and then yellow is sort of like their engineering thing, and like kind of engineering or supporting. The blue, I feel like in this movie though, that's the one thing I just like, because like blue is like science officer and doctors, but in this one I feel like the blue is like security or something. Maybe the blue definitely seems to be like a level below red and yellow, it feels like, because they're not very present in this movie. Weirdly.
They're not very present. There's way more of them, and they often are sort of just standing somewhere, which makes me think that they're sort of like general staff isn't the right word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They're just there in the background.
Right. It is interesting to me that like, I mean, it makes sense. It totally makes sense given the time period, but it is interesting that like, there isn't really any exploration of like, there's no rules about the Mysterians themselves or anything. Like there's no exploration of like the mechanics of how they operate or anything like that. It's just like, there's some color coded aliens and they have technology and it's kind of, but they do have, that's cool. True. They do have a history. You know, that is a good point.
It's like, they don't spend time explaining how their society works now or how their like, I was going to call it a space station, but it's on Earth. Is it still a space station? I don't know.
But they do have
from here.
The space station up in space too, which looks cool.
Don't let me forget that. Yeah. Don't let me forget that.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because they do get this deep lore, this like older than human history lore, which is based on the sort of like 5th planet theory that there was a planet that exploded and became like the asteroid belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fun. I always think sort of building sci-fi off of sort of a not a proven theory, but like a sort of science space theory is always kind of cool. And I mean, it's interesting because obviously with Ishirō Honda, it's going to have themes of war, and they're going to bring up nuclear weapons and stuff like that. And there's 2 ways that they bring up the nuclear weapons of it all in this one. One is that the Mysterians destroyed themselves via nuclear weapons, basically nuclear war. Which makes a lot of sense. And then something I was so glad to see, because we've recently watched some MonsterVerse movies, was a debate over whether or not to use a nuclear bomb, and to see the Japanese representation be like, we can't do that. We can't bring ourselves to that. We shouldn't be like that, and it's just so refreshing to see again. It's nice to be there. That's the stuff I like. I think that's some of the human stuff that actually could have gone heavier. If they're going to do the military discussions, I would rather it be about like the morality and ethics than it is like the strategy and the weapon development.
Yeah.
But they do develop the weapons specifically because they don't want to use a nuclear bomb. So I guess I can't complain too much.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of like Return of Godzilla, like vibes, where it's like sort of Japan sort of mediating between like Americans and Soviets, and and trying to avoid using nuclear weapons. Like it feels very much akin to that. But yeah, I like that too. I like how present those conversations are in this movie. I think that like, again, there's this, it's not the deepest movie ever. But I think that side of it is absolutely like the thing that I think is very much the core. Like if you're looking for a real story and why it makes sense for this to be made in 1957, like that conversation is a big part of it, I would say, for sure.
Okay, that space station.
Yes.
I am so glad the space station is in this movie because we watched a movie a while ago. I think it was Destroy All Monsters, maybe. And this space station is in that movie. And I remember seeing it and being like, I can't forget to ask about this space station. I've never seen this space station. Right. I was like, where the fuck did this space station come from? And then I forgot to ask. And then after the podcast, I was like, I forgot to ask about the space station. So now I know where the space station comes from. It was just stock footage so that they could have sort of like an Earth space station in orbit that they could monitor all the monsters with. So it doesn't require an explanation, but I was like, it's so wild that this is just here, and it's not explained by it being in the Mysterians, but something about it was compelling me to ask.
I think it also appears in the Universal cut of King Kong versus Godzilla as well.
Oh my god!
Oh, does it really?
Right, I forgot about that.
The broadcasts. Where like
yeah, that's one. So we have some of the like the Godzilla movies that have like drastically different American cuts. We were gonna do like just a whole couple of episodes just on those, and like that's one of the reasons that it's like, because like the King Kong one adds so much just random stuff to it. Like it's so fascinating what that movie does.
What is there a space station in that one for?
It's not, I think it's literally just like meant to be like a satellite or something. That's like
okay.
Yeah, like it's not really a satellite. They just use the footage. It's just like this is just the coolest looking ass satellite you've ever seen in your life, basically.
And it's a cool space station. I mean,
it looks so good.
This is okay. I know people who don't necessarily like to play in the space of like tokusatsu get really like indignant about being able to see how special effects are done. I think it's cool, and I don't think it's ever been quite as cool or thought-provoking maybe as with that space station, because you can see how much is kind of like going into making that space station work. You can see some of the wires, you can imagine some of the things they have to do, and I just like, I want to see the set like fourth wall broken. I want to see like how they're suspending it and how it's spinning and how they're moving it and all the things that are, practical versus if they, did any sort of rotoscoping over it. Like, I'm fascinated by this space station. It seems like it would be such a cool prop to figure out.
Yeah,
or if it's like so effective that it's actually just standing on a stick and I didn't notice. Like whatever the case is, it's just a cool prop.
Yeah. It's a great prop. Yeah, I don't really know exactly what went into making it. I'm trying to see if I can find anything quickly about it, but I don't really know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure exactly how they like everything that went into doing it, but they pulled it off, whatever it was.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, it's not like
striking
a flashy effect in a movie full of flashy effects, so I can't imagine it's the first thing people are asking about.
Right.
Yeah. Josh, you mentioned serving in the background, which made me think about how much Tool is in this movie. I love that their jackets that are supposed to keep them warm are actually like Tool. like maybe the least warming material they could possibly choose. But that makes
I do love the capes though. I do love the capes.
Oh.
Yes, I know. They have like the capes with like there's like a collar, but it goes like straight out. I don't really know entirely what it's doing, but I love it.
It's looking cool. That's
Yeah.
It looks good.
It's there to serve cunt.
Exactly. And they do. The Mysterians truly do serve cunt.
Yes.
I do think it's really cute. Like when I know that it's because it's under the guise of like we're peaceful aliens and stuff, but it is very cute when they like invite the humans in and it's sort of like, by the way, guys, it's very cold in here, so here's a free coat we're giving you to wear. Wear our stylish
Complimentary
coat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. Also, that reminds me of a cool effect because when they walk into the like base, they do something like they walk in and disappear. I don't know if there's like a half wall and fog or if it's all just a lighting effect or what, but they disappear halfway through the portal, which was very cool.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure how they would have done that at the time. Like, I wonder if it's like a compositing thing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It could be a compositing thing, or it could be that they have like a specifically shaped half wall and enough fog that if they walk in at the right angle, they do actually kind of disappear into the fog. The thing is, I just don't remember quite how much fog there was, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like it's pretty clean though when they go. And I think if it was fog, there would have. I don't know. I feel like you would have been able to tell because they.
Oh yeah, they'd be like moving it and
the
displacing the
vapor.
fog. Yeah,
So I think it had to be like an actual like they composited like two like film reels together, however you would say that, to have them.
Looks great.
Disappear. Yeah, it does look on all the sort of forced perspective stuff they do within the base.
It's so cool.
So cool. Like the matte paintings and like the kind of conclave walls and stuff. Oh, it looks so good.
Is it like an aerial shot of like the base of like different like the different platforms and walkways and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So cool.
God, it looks so good. Yeah. I mean, that's again, it's like it's not just like the action spectacle, but just the look, how everything looks in this movie. Like part of the visual effects thing is just like, I can't believe I'm in a building this big. Like that's kind of part of the spectacle of it. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I think when we see the dome as well, it looks kind of small, but obviously once you're inside, you see inside, it's like, this is massive. It's like a TARDIS.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
There's only one exception to the incredible spectacle of it all. And that is, why did they try to composite water onto that village? That's like an impossible task. Yeah. I don't blame them for it looking bad. It's just I don't know why they would try.
They tried.
It makes me laugh because the people are running different directions on the bridge, and all of a sudden this water just goes through them, but it's so clear they're still running as the water's going over.
Yeah,
I just don't know why they tried.
Yeah, like that's one of those things where it's like, I know, just cut it out. It's fine. We already saw the water. We see the people running.
Yeah,
that's all we need. We get.
It was a swing. It was ambitious. Sometimes it doesn't pay off. Yeah. But everything else does look incredible.
Yeah, it is like wild though, because it almost stands out more because everything else in this movie like looks really cool, and then that's like, come on, guys. We didn't even need it. Like it's not like it's important to the plot or anything. Like come on. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Another thing that I like. This is such a minor thing, but like the use of like when they have miniatures, like the dolls for people, like those always look really good in this. Like, because sometimes you can watch movies and you can just tell that it's like a doll, right? And it's fine. But I feel like here they all like, I don't know if it's like the movement that they kind of add to them or something, but like anytime you see the dolls like, being brought up into the spaceship, or like there's a point when a doll like jumps out of a tank as it's sinking into the ground. It looks good. Like it looks really good.
The tank one, I hit the 15 seconds back. I was like, I have to see that again, because I was like, obviously this isn't a real person and a life-size tank, but like, what did they just do? Because the doll like jumps out, but then like gets sucked back into the like collapsing ground. It's like a really weird thing to watch, and I still don't entirely know how they pulled off that motion specifically. But it looks really cool.
Yeah. Like I have to, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I have to imagine it's just like you have a little, propelling doll with arms moving that's just on like a spring that just shoots out and then falls back down, which is got to be so funny to like make, but it looks great on screen.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah. I also do like the way that the Mysterians frame everything of like they always are kind of pretending to be the victims in the entire situation.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I mean, we just came here trying to be friends and you attacked us. Like, we're only hitting because you hit us first. Like, you're the bad guys here, really. Like, we only wanted 5 women. It's not a big deal. And you
And
made
how many
us.
kilometers of land?
Right. Like 3.
We can't quite keep track.
Yeah.
The number keeps going up.
300. No, we said 300. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about the 3 flying saucers just like announcing to the whole world, we'll stop attacking if you stop attacking. That is just like, you're not the good guys. Like, you're not innocent.
Yeah. It's
especially because they
killed the village and now you want land.
Right. It's also, I mean, it gives you vibes of just like, I don't know, like in an abusive relationship with a person's just like, I'm only hitting you because like you made me hit you. Like why would you, I mean, like you're the one who provoked this, you know? It's like,
yeah, they twist it real quick, right?
Yeah.
And right after they told you they like nuked their whole planet. So
right. Like somebody's in denial, I think.
Maybe you're the problem, Mysterians. Maybe you've been the problem, Mysterians.
Yeah. It's fascinating. We mentioned all the technology and stuff like that, but like I feel like their sort of electric cannon that they come up with, it's Marklight or something like that. I forget what it's called.
Marklight 5.
Yeah. Like definitely, I feel like we start so many Toho devices and weapons we see after this are especially like the maser cannons and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
are so clearly like inspired by this kind of event and that.
I can't remember. Do they just come up with it just randomly? Oh, hey, we've got a new weapon. Let's try this out. Or
it's like it ends up ultimately being born out of like the other countries being like, well, we have to use nuclear weapons, and Japan being like, we can't do that, so we must come up with something else. I don't know if they specifically like built it off of like another device they were using or what, but they built it specifically because, and we didn't even talk about this effect, because the beams that the Mysterians are using like melt everything they try. Ooh, so they specifically come up with like this thing that can not only withstand reflect it, but like reflect it back, which is, you know, one thing that's I think it's clever for a movie that is trying to be critical about war and trying to be about Earth unifying, that also has to like militantly get rid of an invader. Like they're unable to like not engage in war, so they find kind of the perfect like resolution to that, which is like, well, we're not going to be more aggressive. We're not going to like engage in an arms race to be more powerful. We are just going to redirect your destruction back at yourself, which is kind of what the Mysterians have been this whole time, is this sort of self-destructive force. So that is I think better than it maybe looks on the surface.
I love that reading of it. I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right. Because that's always my thing, is that like often with these movies, because they still have to be action movies, you know, dealing with an invader or a monster or something, like it can be as anti-war as it wants, but it still ends up having to deploy the military and make them like shoot things anyway. And
they don't always wrestle with the morality of that as well as the original one did. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's where it becomes like, okay, guys.
Yeah. And so I love that you framed it like that, though, that it's like, they do try, like there is a lot of trying and failing in this movie where they think they come up with some weapon that'll defeat them, or like, it's like, oh, they don't like heat, so we'll like superheat them or whatever. And that fails, you know, like I love that they do that. And then like you were saying, Doug, their ultimate win is not to actually invent a real new weapon, but to invent something that'll just sort of use their own forces against them. And like, you know, the Mysterians are constantly being like, if you didn't hit us first, we wouldn't hit you. And now Earth can be like, well, if you didn't hit us first, you wouldn't get hit back, right? Yeah, that's really clever.
Yeah, I like it as a solution a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they let their Mysterians escape as well. They don't actually like wipe them all out.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because that's another thing. Like, you know, like Atragon, they genocide the fuck out of Mu, you know, and like obviously, and that movie grapples with it. Like it doesn't make that a happy ending or anything, right. But like I do like this movie.
That is a good point.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting distinction with this movie. That's just like, look, we just showed you that we can fight back. So maybe get the fuck out. We'll let you live.
Oh, that makes me even more interested now. I know you said it was a loose sequel, but it makes me even more interested now in that sequel. I'm assuming the answer is no, but I would love to know if they grapple with the idea of well, we let them go because we were trying not to, be the aggressors in this situation, and now we've sort of ended up in this scenario. I don't think that necessarily means they did anything wrong, but I do think it's an interesting question.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else about this movie?
So, with the UK DVD release of the Mysterians,
Yeah.
it turns out they had actually used the theatrical subtitles. So the original subtitles, they were on the prints provided by Toho back in the day when they were exporting it out to different countries to be released, dubbed or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked it out that they were using the BFI, which is the organization that released Mysterians here in the UK. They were using the theatrical subtitles, with the only difference being that they tweaked a few words into British English, but we didn't even recognize it because at first there's a lot of locations were being subtitled, even though how in some of the films they would have like a location title on the screen where say this is some location near Mount Fuji or something.
Right.
For some reason they were subtitling all of these places, and it's like, this isn't in the film,
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, this is quite the discovery, really.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because with the North American release, they just I think it was either subtitles provided by Toho or their own subtitle script that they created. It doesn't have that in, and it's a completely different translation.
Fascinating. Does it change? Do you know if it like sort of changes the experience of watching the movie very much?
It doesn't. Like, the gist of the translation's still there. The same as with it compared to the North American release subtitles. This translation gist is still there. The only problem is that with the theatrical subtitles, they're quite simple. They're quite simplistic. Like, they're shortened down. But it doesn't take away what you're trying to like get from it or understand. Yeah. So it's not that big of an issue.
Yeah, that's always so interesting to me because, like, people can be very particular about how the experience of watching a movie, and it's always really interesting to me when it's just like when you can watch like multiple translations of the same thing. It's sort of like I still feel like I watched the same movie. Like, certainly wouldn't be the case for every movie in existence because some movies are so reliant on the words that are being said. Certainly, but like I think for a movie like this, it kind of makes sense because so much of it is spectacle, and there isn't super deep character stuff happening in this movie. So it's like the dialogue is almost like less important as long as you're understanding what they're talking about. That's the
what's
important
going
part.
on. Yeah.
That is really interesting.
Because you feel like you do get some people that are like, oh, I want an accurate translation. I want it down to a T. Like, everything's down detail. You then have people who like, I want something halfway, or there are some people that are fine with dub titles because it's been localized so much to the point where, it's still getting the gist of what's happening, and I can understand it a lot more better.
Yeah. It is interesting. And I think I remember, this is just based on reading it, so I don't know the specifics of it, but I know that this movie had some controversies with some DVD releases, I think like in the 2000s, because there's like a dub.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think they produced a new dub for it.
Right.
Even though there was a American dub already created, I think, released by
RKO.
Well, American dub version RKO. But I think because
I think Toho,
the rights are tied up.
Yeah, like Toho or someone didn't let them use that dub on like a re-release, so then they dubbed it in a new way, and people were mad because they didn't like the new dub compared to the original dub. And then like that old dub is like hard to find now because it wasn't released on DVD. So
we're stuck with VHS versions of it. Or reconstructions.
But that stuff is always fascinating because it's just like, I think oftentimes, like, I don't think studios recognize how important like dubs and certain versions of movies are to people. Like that it's like, well, if I grew up with, this particular dub and I want to rewatch the movie, I want to rewatch it the way that I watch it. And if you don't give it to me, like, I don't want new people doing it. I want the way that I originally watched it,
I think that's definitely the case with, what was it? Godzilla 1985?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the issue there was because Toho didn't want to pay for the music that was used for the American cut or something.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because the composer, so the music that they took from some other sci-fi movie.
That's right. Yeah.
And something like, and the composer's now a bit more famous or something like that, to a point where we can't get away with just using this.
Yeah.
About paying the royalties.
Yeah. Which is it's just so funny. It's like also stupid.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so silly. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Yeah. Well, I love that perspective too. It's just that stuff is always really interesting and so unique to like watching foreign films. You don't have these conversations when you're talking about movies from, English speaking movies if you're an English speaker.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fascinating.
What we hear is what we get.
Right.
But compared to
Exactly.
a language that we don't know, we're stuck with like subtitles, and with different translators as well. It's their own perspective of what they're hearing. And so what can be like said can be like translated differently by another translator.
Right.
And like, so the meaning can change sometimes, but
Yeah.
not for the whole movie. But
Yeah, for sure.
When I first started watching like Sentai and Kamen Rider, I got in right at a time when there was like some kind of like subbing war happening, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I just want to know what's happening on the show.
Oh yeah.
And like everyone had feelings on like what I was watching, and I was like, I don't care. I just want to know what's happening.
like overtime dubs versus some other dubs or
TV
something
Nihon.
like, or it's not dubs, subs. Yeah. No, it's that stuff's always so funny too. Yeah.
Like, it's important. I'm glad that there are people who do sort of have those conversations and sort of figure that stuff out, and who like keep track and preserve that stuff like you do, Josh. Like, I'm glad that there are people doing that stuff. I am just a baby and I don't understand any of it. So I'm like, I just want to know what's happening.
yeah.
But it is, you do notice it when you do get something that's not particularly great. You do notice it. So it is, you can't totally just be ignorant to it, and you can't just totally ignore it. So I am very grateful for the folks who pay close attention to those things.
Any final thoughts about this movie? I had a fun time. I guess what I'll say. I liked it. It's not, I think it is, I do think that this is, I feel like this is a movie where if you watch it at the right time in your film watching experience, it's going to hit you differently. I do think if you watch it after you've seen a lot of other films, it is going to feel very small and quaint, and you do have to really acclimate to like the time period that it was made. And I do think as a historical piece, and seeing it through the lens of how it influenced future movies.
Yeah.
I think that's to me is what is the most interesting part.
Yeah. And I think like, even though this movie narratively is relying on some twists and turns, I think because of that context and because of its place in history, it will be really beneficial on a rewatch when you know all the narrative points, because then it'll be easier to like focus and hone in on those specific things that it's doing. So I'm really excited to rewatch it. Well,
predictions.
Yes.
Doug. Why do you think we watched this movie on our Godzilla podcast?
There's different things I could point to. And I feel like my gut is to be like, oh, well, the Mysterians will be back, and maybe they will be back. But I remember when we watched Atragon, I was like, okay, obviously it's going to be the sub. The movie is named after like the sub and the sub project and all that sort of stuff. And like, Manda's not that big a deal, so we probably won't see Manda again. Foolish of me not to assume a monster would come back. So I am assuming that Mogera is someone I will see again, or I will see another Mogera at some point. So I'm going to officially predict that at the very least we watched it because I will see Mogera again. Which means the question is the Mysterians. And I think that's a tougher one because they get their own They get their own sequel, it sounds like, which doesn't mean anything necessarily. They are older aliens in the timeline of movie releases than the Exilians. I don't know if that necessarily matters. I have been predicting stubbornly that the Exilians will return at some point, but now I feel like the Mysterians will probably return at some point. So I'm going to say that Megara for sure and Mysterians probably. I'm guessing there's more than one reason we watched this. It's a very influential one.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And I'm just going to predict that we see that space station again. I don't know for sure if we will or not, but
if it turns up somewhere.
Somewhere, I don't know.
Yeah.
T-shirt maybe, I don't know.
Oh my god. All right. The next movie that we're going to be doing though on the 27th later this month is Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, which is the next film in the Heisei era after Mechagodzilla 2. So, what do you know about this movie, Doug?
I feel like, for anyone who is like worried about like the metagaming of predictions, it can't ever be. I can't metagame it for real, because what am I supposed to do with Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, given everything we've watched to this point? And why are we watching this movie right before that movie when that movie exists in that era? You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. So what I do know, what I will tell you is that I have seen a monster that I assume is Space Godzilla. I always like look away. For people who don't know, I always like look away from the people I'm podcasting with when I do these. Because I'm like, this, someone's going to give something away. But I have seen a monster that I am assuming is Space Godzilla. The thing that is confusing is that it's a movie called Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. So presumably there are two Godzillas. One is our Godzilla on Earth, and one is a Space Godzilla from space? ? So my guess is the one that I've seen is the is it titular Space Godzilla. And I have not seen our Earth Godzilla. And the one that people always have on like t-shirts or posting about or doing fan art of is the space one with like big, statement shoulder pieces. That's what I have to sort of assume. But there is a possibility that like Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, especially in the Heisei era, well, maybe this is more of a Millennium era thing. Like, the title doesn't actually mean that much. It could be that Godzilla goes to space and transforms. Who freaking knows?
Yeah.
Maybe Space Godzilla is a Mechagodzilla. What?
Yeah, you just watched another Mechagodzilla movie, right? So maybe he's called Space Godzilla because he literally takes up a lot of space and it has nothing to do with outer space at all.
Godzilla versus his ever-growing appetite and ever-growing body,
There you go.
So all that to say, I don't know anything other than the one image of that shoulder piece monster that I have had for a long time.
Okay. Well, then this is just going to be kind of based on, you can theorize whatever you want because it's called Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. What kind of space things do you think might be involved? How do you think the word space is going to be involved in this movie at all?
Okay, what is the last Heisei movie we watched?
Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, which is the one that had Rodan and the Mechagodzilla and Baby Godzilla.
That's right. Oh, there's already two Godzillas. Shoot. Oh, wait, where did Baby Godzilla come from? They just found Baby Godzilla. No, don't go down that road. I don't know. Has there been space? There's a Ghidorah already, right? So
yeah, but he was a time traveler.
He was a time traveler, not an alien.
Yeah, they haven't done like a space thing, like an explicitly movie based around space in the Heisei era. There's like, you've seen space, I guess.
I don't know. I guess I guess sometimes Occam Razor, right? Like maybe it's just that this is an alien invasion movie, and for whatever reason, they have their own monster. I don't know. I feel like there's so many complicated paths that I could go down that I don't need to go down because the movies are connected, but they're not like that concerned with like building upon their previous things.
Sure.
But Baby Godzilla exists. The path I didn't want to go down was like, what if Baby Godzilla is actually from space and Baby Godzilla grows up and is a problem? I don't know. I don't think that's actually it though.
That's a cool theory.
I'm spiraling. Yeah. Derek, I'm spiraling.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll ask you another, just sort of a broader question. Given given again the last movie you saw with Baby Godzilla and everything, what do you expect maybe like the tone of the movie to be? Because this is the Heisei era, like tonally it's been pretty consistent, but do you think it's going to stay consistent or be a swerve or what?
I don't think it'll like deeply swerve, but I do feel like if we're going to space and we also have a baby, I wouldn't be surprised if this one were, I don't want to say like lighter or funnier, but maybe a little bit more over the top, like leaning a bit more into the absurdity of just a world with giant monsters, you know?
Okay.
Not full Monsterverse, but like more into the spectacle.
Cool. Okay. Any other kaiju or anything you think you expect to see in this movie? You want to throw out there?
Oh, I always feel like I'm inclined to say no when there's a versus because it's like, well, they're in the title. But let's see. In Heisei, we did just see Rodan, right? And we did.
Yeah, we've seen Rodan, we've seen Ghidorah, we've seen Mothra.
We've seen Ghidorah. Give me Mothra. I'll take Mothra for 1,000.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I had. Josh, do you have anything you want to ask Doug, like about like predicting future Godzilla things?
Ooh.
It's hard. It's really hard to come
hard.
off the top. Yeah.
Do you think Miki will have a stronger appearance?
Oh, that's a great question, actually.
That is actually
because
a really
we
good
have
question.
been tracking Miki's role in these movies, and there have been a couple where it's sort of like dipped after establishing her as like a very important character. I do,
and she did have like a little more of a significant role in Mechagodzilla 2 than she had in
yeah,
the movie before it. So like,
yeah.
yeah.
This might just be like wishful thinking, but I would like for Miki to be like a main character again. Like,
Cool.
I don't know that she'll be our protagonist, but I'm going to say yes. I think her role will increase. I think she'll be more important. And I don't know, they could do anything with that. The fact that she's like basically psychic means that she could have a connection with Godzilla, and that's helpful. It could mean that there are aliens and she's somehow the only person who can communicate with the aliens, and that's helpful. There's a baby that she could connect with, but I do think there's enough pieces on the board that scream making Miki more important that I'm going to say increased role.
Love it. Well, I'm excited for that movie.
What if her psychic powers up Godzilla, and that's how he gets shoulder pads?
Ooh.
I love it. Psychic shoulder pads.
Right.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Like telepathy, like you need to serve.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Oh my God. Yes. Well, that was fun. I can't wait for that. That was fun. Josh, thank you so much for joining us for this.
Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, of course. If people want to find you and everything you're doing, where's the best place to do that? Plug all your stuff.
Oh, I'm on Blue Sky, Tumblr, Instagram, sometimes Facebook, Scruff.
It's important.
I think that's it.
Yeah. And I'll definitely plug your blog in the show notes as well. It's a cool archive there that you should definitely check out. But if you'd like to find other queer creators who talk about media, check out the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective at glitterjaw.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at Glitterjaw, on Instagram at GlitterjawPods. But Doug, if people want to find you and everything you're doing, where's the best place to do that?
You can find me all over the place at Ikybooley, ICKYBOOLEY. You can find everything I'm doing at glitterjaw.com. That includes a weekly podcast Derek and I do together called Walloping Web Snappers, where we deep dive into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. We also do a show called Falling with Style, which has been a bit more active this year than the past couple. It's a Pixar podcast. It used to be a monthly movie marathon, but we're all caught up. So we kind of just do episodes when there's a new movie or when we feel inspired. We recently did some birthday episodes about animated movies, so we put those over on the Falling with Style feed. Check those out. You can also listen to me on Novel Gaming, where my friend Katie and I catch up on all the books, video games, and sometimes other media we've been enjoying lately. What about you, Derek?
Sure, here my most list is at Derek B. Gale. Other than what Doug mentioned, I also have a couple other podcasts that include Gimmicks, where we look at high concept and experimental structure breaking episodes of television, as well as Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, where we look at Simpsons tie-in video games, as well as video game history and pop culture history and Simpsons history. And if you are going to be around in Atlanta at the end of the month, I'm going to be at DragonCon. I am going to be moderating the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie 30th anniversary retrospective fan panel that Saturday morning. And I also made some Godzilla zines that are funny little Godzilla images with just like funny captions with them. I will just be giving those out. So if you find me, hit me up and I'll give you a free little handmade zine that I created. And also, you know, if you just want to say hi because you listen to the podcast, do that too. I'll be around. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/wallopingwebsnappers if you want to support us. That's, of course, the name of our Spider-Man show, but that supports everything that Doug and I do together. We do have Godzilla and Toho related bonus episodes we do as well. I think by the time this episode comes out, our episode on Latitude Zero would have come out on the Patreon feed. We haven't watched and recorded that yet, but I know it's going to be a fun time. So definitely check that out if you want to hear us talking more Ishirō Honda sci-fi movies. Check out our Discord. There's a link to that in the show notes. Email us at screonkpodcast@gmail.com if you want to communicate with us. And please rate, review, and subscribe on all your podcast platforms. And like we said, join us on August 27th for the penultimate film in the Heisei era. With 1994's Godzilla versus Space Godzilla.
Bomb drop. See you then.
See ya.